Welcome to Untold Shocking History Channel. Make sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out more videos like this one.
Hundreds of people gather with wagons, horses, and tents in Oklahoma around 1889. They await the start of the land run, an event that drew many seeking new opportunities. Men work installing wooden markers in the field, where the Battle of Little Bighorn took place in 1879. The boards were used to mark where participants in the clash, which occurred 3 years earlier, fell. Members of the Sioux tribe take part in a traditional dance at Fort Niobrara, Nebraska, in 1891. They wear ceremonial outfits with feathers, necklaces, and handcrafted ornaments, moving in a circle. Scout Mobiel poses on horseback around 1891, wearing a traditional Kiowa ceremonial outfit. He wears long feathers in his headdress and handcrafted ornamentation, symbolizing his rank and responsibilities. 5 men engage in conversation in front of a building in South Dakota between 1887 and 1892. 3 of them wear traditional outfits with feathers, decorated fabrics, and cultural ornaments. A Native American stands in front of several traditional tents, known as teepees, near Aberdeen, South Dakota. The photograph was taken around 1890 and depicts a typical Great Plains setting. An elevated structure appears in an open area near Greenwood, South Dakota, in an image made before 1895. Built with logs and covered in fabric, this structure was used for important ceremonies and rituals by local Native communities. A large group of residents gathers in front of an adobe building during a community meeting in Queboleta, New Mexico. The image was captured by Charles Pierce, likely in the late 19th century. 3 miners stand next to a wagon loaded with camp supplies in Goldfield, Nevada, between 1900 and 1905. 2 burros pull the vehicle, which carries boxes, blankets, and tools. A Navajo man stands beside his sheep at a water point in the desert, near Kiem's Canyon, Arizona, around 1890. The site is dry, with sandy soil and low vegetation surrounding the small spring. Part of the Great Homestake Works facilities appears in Lazd, South Dakota, around 1889. The site consists of sheds, machinery, and workers involved in the local operation. A busy saloon stands in downtown Black Hawk, Colorado, in 1897. The wooden facade displays signage, large windows, and people gathered at the entrance wearing period attire. A band of musicians poses with their instruments in Dodge City, Kansas, in 1885. They form the famous Dodge City Cowboy Band, made up of men dressed in traditional Old West attire. Prescott's main street in the Arizona Territory appears busy during a period of expansion, likely in the late 19th century. Wooden buildings, wagons, and pedestrians line both sides of the road. A group poses beside a horse-drawn carriage on a dirt road around the 1890s. The photograph was taken by Christian Barthelmess, known for documenting everyday life in the American West. 2 hunters pose beside an elk in front of D.K. Hickok's camp in the Oregon Coast Range. The scene shows tents set up amid the region's dense mountain vegetation. Workers gather at the Maid and Jones Railroad Camp in Whitewood Canyon, South Dakota, in 1890. The wooden buildings and tents in the background show the setup constructed to support the work. Multiple riders drive herds across a wide plain in Belforche in 1887. The open landscape reveals hundreds of animals being guided in an organized formation. A group of cowboys rests beside supply wagons in a desert area between 1880 and 1910. They sit on the ground, surrounded by simple cooking utensils. Animals feed near the Eufaula cotton oil mill in the town of Eufaula, then in Indian Territory, in an image taken before 1908. The factory building appears in the background, surrounded by workers and storage areas. Art Pulliam stands beside his horse in West Union, Custer County, Nebraska, in 1889. He holds a long wooden tool and carries gear typical of local residents. A street view shows part of the town of Corinne in Box Elder County, Utah, around 1869. The main road is flanked by simple wooden buildings, wagons, and a few pedestrians. An explorer of the Pikes Peak region poses in front of his log cabin around 1900. The simple wooden structure stands amid dense mountain vegetation. A family poses in front of a log cabin in the New Mexico Territory around 1895. Men, women, and children stand in front of the house wearing period clothing. John Delane's workshop appears in Broken Bow, Custer County, Nebraska in 1889. Several people pose in front of the wooden buildings, surrounded by wheels, wagons, and horses. People look over the Guthrie area in the Oklahoma Territory around 1889. The scene shows a vast field with tents, wagons, and makeshift structures spread across the land. People gather in an open area during a social event in Sioux City, Iowa, around 1889. The scene shows a group among wagons and makeshift structures, indicating a special community occasion. Women and children gather inside Mrs. American Horse's home around the late 19th century near Ogallala on the United States Great Plains. The interior of the Sawtill Ranch is recorded in Fremont County, Idaho, around 1872. The space is simple, with rustic furniture, kitchen utensils, and everyday objects used by local families. A family poses in front of their sod block house in Coburg, Nebraska Territory between 1884 and 1885. Children, adults, and even a rocking chair are arranged for the photograph. Solomon D. Butcher poses in front of his first home in Nebraska around 1886. The dwelling, known as a sod house, was built with blocks of earth cut from the surrounding ground. The Bartee Ranch sits on the banks of Hat Creek in South Dakota in 1890. The wooden house is surrounded by large trees with a small stream flowing in front. An artesian well gushes water into the dry ground of Kern County, California, around 1880. Nearby, 2 horse-drawn wagons stand idle, and a few people watch the scene. Workers are shown at a mining site in El Dorado, California, between 1848 and 1853. They use hand tools and channel water through flumes to separate materials from the soil. A worker uses a wooden box to sift sediments in search of metals along the banks of a creek in 1871. This method, known as a cradle, was common during the natural resource rush. Locomotive number 7 of the Burlington Railroad stands stopped in Nebraska in 1886. 2 employees are in the cab, while 3 women watch the train by the tracks. The old mission church stands in the center of Zuni Pueblo, New Mexico, in 1873. The 2-story adobe building has a cross on top and simple wooden porches. 3 traditional tents are pitched on the banks of the Columbia River around 1922. People in ceremonial dress watch the landscape surrounded by rocks and native vegetation. A family poses next to their simple rural home in 1882. The group stands outside, wearing period clothing, surrounded by everyday farming tools. A buffalo approaches the water in an open field around 1901. The scene shows the animal in its natural habitat, surrounded by low vegetation and a peaceful landscape